She felt warm once, soft, attentive, curious. She made time for you. She laughed at your jokes. She leaned in when you spoke. She asked you questions like she actually cared. And for a moment, you thought, maybe this could become something real. But somewhere along the line, that warmth changed. The softness hardened. The interest faded. Now she answers like it's a chore. Now her replies are cold, distant, calculated. Now the energy that once flowed feels forced, or worse, withheld. And suddenly you're stuck in that hollow place, that space between what it was and what it's become, where you're still showing up, but she's no longer really there. And what's worse, she knows it. She knows you feel the shift. She knows you're still hoping. She knows you're confused by the change, and she lets it stay that way. Because as long as you don't pull back, she doesn't have to face herself. As long as you stay attached, she still feels wanted, even when she's not giving. And as long as you keep trying, she never has to risk losing you. But here's the truth that breaks the illusion. If she truly valued you, you wouldn't have to wonder if she did. When a woman values a man, it shows, not in words, not in promises, but in energy, in presence, in the little things, her effort, her availability, her consistency, her eye contact, her curiosity, her vulnerability. But when she doesn't value you, those things vanish, not because she forgot, but because she chose to stop showing up that way. And the longer you stay in that space, the more you start losing pieces of yourself. You start questioning your worth. You start analyzing everything you say. You start walking on eggshells around her moods. You start begging for clarity without ever using the word beg, because you don't want to push her away. You don't want to come off needy. You don't want to seem like you care too much, but you do, and she knows it, and she feels safe. Not because she's loved, but because she's in control. And that's the part that stings. Not just that she doesn't value you, but that she still keeps you around without giving you what you need. That she wants your attention, but not your depth. That she wants your presence, but not your presence as a man. And you feel it, not just in the way she talks to you, but in the way she looks at her phone when you're speaking. The way she leaves your texts unanswered for hours, but watches your stories within seconds. The way she flirts with you one night and barely acknowledges you the next. The way she knows you'll still show up, even when she's absent. This isn't about her being evil. It's about her knowing she has power, and you not realizing you've given it to her. Because women feel everything. They sense your need before you speak it. They notice your insecurity before you admit it. They read the desperation in your eyes, even if your voice stays calm. And when they no longer respect you, they stop giving, not as punishment, but as reflection, a mirror showing you how far you've drifted from yourself. Because when a man is respected, he doesn't need to chase. When a man is valued, he doesn't need to prove himself. When a man is centered, he doesn't tolerate being someone's second option. But when he forgets that, he starts to shrink. He starts to accommodate. He starts to over-explain. He starts to overthink. And slowly, she stops seeing him as a man at all. And this is where the spiral begins, where you start justifying her coldness, where you convince yourself she's just going through something, where you pretend it's your fault for being too intense, too emotional, too available. But no, this isn't about intensity, it's about alignment, and she's no longer aligned with you, because women pull away not just when they lose interest, but when they lose respect. And most women won't tell you that directly, they'll show it in their energy. And now the question becomes, what do you do? When a woman no longer values you, what do? You pull back, not to punish her, not to manipulate her, not to make her miss you, but to remember who the hell you are. Because the longer you stay chasing someone who's indifferent, the further you drift from your own value. Pulling back isn't revenge, it's recognition. Recognition that you were showing up in ways that weren't being received, that your presence was becoming background noise, that your consistency was being taken for granted, that your strength was being ignored or mistaken for weakness. And here's the paradox. When you pull back from someone who doesn't value you, you don't lose them. You lose the illusion of who they were. You stop holding on to memories of a connection that no longer exists. You stop investing in conversations that go nowhere. You stop bleeding energy into a black hole of emotional unavailability. You come back to yourself, to your silence, to your edge, to your time, to your space, to your power. And maybe, just maybe, she notices. Maybe she starts to feel the absence. Maybe she starts to wonder where you went. Maybe she starts remembering who you were before you gave too much. But that's not the point, because you don't pull back for her. You pull back for your dignity, for your clarity, for your emotional equilibrium. You stop engaging in conversations that feel one-sided. You stop giving energy to someone who replies when it's convenient. You stop waiting for a shift that never comes, and you start living like your energy is expensive, because it is. Women are drawn to men who don't need them, not because those men are heartless, but because those men have direction. They know who they are. They don't attach too fast. They don't chase when things go cold. They don't beg for connection. They observe. They pull back. They let silence speak louder than words. And if the woman steps up, they notice. And if she disappears, they accept. Because their peace matters more than her confusion. So if you're here now, trying to figure out how to pull back when she doesn't value you, it starts with remembering what you've allowed. You allowed slow replies. You allowed disrespect. You allowed emotional distance. You allowed mixed signals. You allowed being treated like an option. And that's not weakness. That's just a lesson. A painful, important, necessary lesson that no woman will ever value a man who doesn't value himself first. So reclaim your space. Reclaim your stillness. Stop texting first. Stop explaining yourself. Stop reaching out to fix something she broke. Stop trying to revive a connection she killed. You can't carry both people's emotions in a relationship. That's not love. That's imbalance. Pulling back isn't about ego. It's about sanity. It's about no longer showing up to places where your worth is invisible. And maybe it hurts. Maybe it stings more than you expected. Maybe it feels like loss. But what you're losing is your attachment to being undervalued. And what you're gaining is your power. Because the moment you stop asking for a woman to value you and start valuing your own time, presence, and energy, that's the moment everything changes. That's when you become a man again, not just someone waiting to be chosen. And that's when the right kind of woman will begin to see you, not as an option, but as a presence she respects, because you respect yourself enough to walk away when she doesn't.